That is some old school typing.
Right. Okay, Jez, I'm not sure how well you remember this, but at school, well, it's obviously nice to see you again, but at school we had to write down 3 people who have influenced my life.
Yeah.
Is there any chance you might be able to read the first person for me, please?
First person, yeah.
Just gauge your reactions to that.
Yeah, okay. The first person I'm going to talk about is Jamiel. In junior school, we were playing each other in a game of football, in a football game, and we were always inappropriate. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah.
Inappropriate experience slagging each other off. I came into intake day. I came to intake day and found out Jez was in my tutor group, and I was annoyed. I soon made friends with him and are now good mates with him. After school, I normally go out and play with him as well as some of my other mates.
What's your reaction or memories of us back then?
Actually, I do remember that, John. Do you know what I mean? I do remember that because you went to Hiltonbury, right?
That's right. You were at Murden, was it?
I was at Murden,
Yeah.
and I remember playing football against you and hated you. Absolutely, we did not get on.
We didn't get on. Well,
We didn't get on, and
right.
I do remember actually when we were in tutor group that when I found out that you were in my tutor group, I think there was a bit of a bit of a dagger to the heart. But
For yourself?
Yeah, for myself. But actually, once I got to know you, and yeah, we got on really well, and we spent a lot of time together. You know, sleepovers and playing football.
Yeah.
And obviously, we were in the same tutor group together.
Yeah, and generally speaking, in terms of our friendship, how do you look back on it back then? Because for me personally, I always find a source of regret, or certainly did for a number of years, that we didn't kind of remain friends.
Yeah.
I think at college we obviously probably saw each other, you know, and such like. But I think college was when we kind of like drifted apart.
Yeah.
More so, especially from old school friends from Hiltonbury, like Paul and Ian.
I think you know, for me, like it was, you know, being honest, it was one of those things that with the guys that I kept in contact with, they were the guys I was probably closest to. And I'm not sure why we drifted apart, really, to be honest. Maybe that was even earlier than college.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't, maybe towards the back end of Thornden. Yeah, I can't really put my finger on why that would happen necessarily, but I guess with any relationship, you end up some people you drift apart from, and other people you stay close with. There's certainly some people I've stayed close with, which I wish I hadn't stayed close with.
Really?
So, yeah.
Are we going to name them?
No, we're not going to name them.
We're not going to name them.
No, we're not going to name
them.
names.
Good idea. And what are some of your recollections? I mean, film reviews we did?
Film reviews? I think the biggest one, and I think you know where we're going to go with this.
I've got a fairly good idea of this.
The one that was at your sleepover at your house.
Yes.
And finding the porn tape was absolutely legendary. And finding it behind the cistern in the toilet was just an absolute genius.
What are your
So my recollection of that was that your dad was a bit of a porn king, and you had said this to us that he had a load of pornos, but had hid them because we were all coming round. And then we spent pretty much the whole night and evening trying to find this porno. I don't know what time it was, must have been well into the night, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. And we had found, and then I think I'd gone to the toilet and had found it at the back on top of your cistern, or behind the cistern there was a tape. And I did feel a bit of a conquering hero returning with the tape and finding out that we'd been able to watch the porno. And I think we watched it well until about 6 o'clock in the morning.
It was 3 hours, 3 hours long.
I couldn't.
Sure, we watched the whole thing.
I couldn't tell you what was in it, but I do remember when.
To be honest, mate, I probably watched it more often than you. So I can remember.
I think there was a lot of. I think there was a lot of people laying down flat on the floor. You know.
You don't remember the banquet scene?
No, I don't remember the banquet scene. Maybe. But clearly you do.
maybe for another day. What about yeah, and then what was it, English when we did? Did those film reviews?
We did do film reviews in English, and I remember we did Jumanji and Die Hard with a Vengeance. I particularly enjoyed your bit where you showed the guy being decapitated. I do remember that. I don't think Mrs. Jones was all that impressed. Was it Mrs. Jones?
No, was it the guy? Was it a guy, or was it Mrs. Jones?
The thing is, the other bit I remember about English was we watched Romeo and Juliet, and there was some titillation. And I think that you particularly were happy that there was some tits on in Romeo and Juliet, which I don't think what Mrs. Jones had planned, but there you go.
Good memories.
Yeah.
Good memories. Oh, Anything in particular? We played together football, didn't we, at Hiltonbury?
Yeah, not at Hiltonbury.
No, AFC Hiltonbury.
AFC Hiltonbury, yeah, we played together at football, and we played together at school as well. So, but in terms of the football, I mean, you know, that stuff I do remember, but I only remember, I remember winning the Hampshire Cup with school, but I don't think you were part of that group, were you?
I'm not sure. My kind of main memory, I think, of when we were playing football, it must have been Thornden. Because I think
I played for S&D for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I moved across to Hiltonbury probably when I was 15 or 16. So I don't know if
it was a bit later, yeah.
It was later. So yeah, it would have been more school that we would have played together, particularly on tutor group and things like that.
Yeah. It was, good memories. You know, I'm always glad I wasn't one of those people who was picked last for football on the tennis court.
Well, I have a memory that you were quite good.
Well, you know, I've got some skills.
I remember you being a bit of a chopper.
Yeah, I think that was another nickname.
Yeah, I think it may be.
amongst many.
Yeah.
But I mean, how's it been for you? I mean, let's go with what were you thinking back then in terms of hopes and dreams? That's the kind of idea behind this. But
I do vaguely remember thinking that I wanted to be in banking of some kind, and I think I wanted to be a stockbroker for a long time. And also the other thing is I made a bet with Martin Staniforth. I don't know if you remember him.
I know. Hayne.
Yeah, Hayne. And I made a bet with him that I would be in the army by the time I was 19. And a 50 quid bet, and I think I was about 13. So obviously I'd had some sort of thoughts about joining the armed forces. But in terms of hopes and dreams, I think just probably just get a hot girlfriend was probably number one on your list. Yeah. And just make a lot of money.
Can I just bring your attention to hot girlfriends?
Yeah, it's fine.
To my letter for one moment. There's a few snippets of our recollections of our memories from this letter I wrote to myself. I've just broken up with Jez because ! I've just made up with Jez. So I think in that short period of time we must have had a disagreement and just instantly made up. But I'm just trying to find you in here actually. Jed, Simon, Alex and Martin are going to Austria on Friday. That was another memory.
Yeah.
Roger, do you remember that?
Yeah, it was skiing, yeah. We went to Austria for skiing, yeah. So this was not 1994?
This was, I wrote this in 94.
Yeah, we went skiing in Austria. That was the first time I went skiing, yeah.
Yeah.
And
memories of that?
Well, Catherine Leach was probably the memory of that.
Yeah.
So, that was my first kiss on the Austria ski trip.
Go on then, describe that first kiss.
I'm not going to describe that first kiss for you, John.
That's pushing it a bit too much.
It was dark, and then it was there was light switched on, and then it was still continuing.
Metaphorically, or?
No, literally.
How about this one for you? Jess is asking Anna to dance with her at the disco tonight. Presumably means yourself. Because I started this letter with in the first few lines. Jess is going out with Anna.
Yeah. So that
memories.
Well, that's where the relationship ended once I came back and word had got round that I'd kissed Kath Leach. Yeah. But you know the sort of things when you're going out when you're 13 years old ends up being, if you hold hands, that's quite a big thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that didn't last very long. And to be honest, I haven't seen Anna in a long time.
No, I think. To be honest, I was mildly obsessed with Anna Fulford. But
I know you were. I remember that actually.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, I think you were mildly obsessed with a lot of girls, though, John.
Yeah, that's true. That's basically a theme throughout the rest of the letter, I think. But obviously we knew each other at college, and after college you went away to Nottingham Uni, didn't you?
Yeah, I was at Nottingham. Yeah.
And was it business?
No, I did. I did an undergraduate degree in production and operations management. That was what it was, and then I did a master's in international business.
Yeah, at Nottingham as well.
Yeah, Nottingham. Yeah.
And what? Can you summarise that period?
A drunken fueled haze.
That's a good way to summarise it.
Yeah. I mean, it was just great fun. I mean, I think a lot of people will agree that university is one of the best times of your life, and I had made some amazing friends. Two of those friends were best men at my wedding, and absolutely loved every minute of my time in Nottingham. Would I change it? Maybe I wouldn't have been drunk as much, and maybe I wouldn't have been, messing around with too many girls, but maybe I would have been a bit nicer to some people, but maybe.
Can I explore that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because my memories of university just are essentially that. Sometimes maybe I look back with rose-tinted glasses. So I went to Sheffield Hallam for a year to do media studies. This was in '99 to 2000. Changed over and did linguistics at Manchester University.
Oh, right, okay.
I could go to a better university based upon my A-level grades. Yeah. And all these. That was my thinking at the time. And also I was thinking I'd like to do a postgraduate in broadcast journalism after university, but that didn't pan out, mainly because I'd had enough of education. But looking back at university, for me, I wouldn't say they were necessarily the best times of my life. Sometimes when I'm sat at work, I think, yeah, I'd love to be back there, but I think it was just the lack of a woman at university was probably the major issue for me.
Well, the big thing for me was I was a bit of a slut at university. So yeah. So
that's the headline written.
Yeah.
We'll scrap all that school
stuff. Yeah, just straight in. Jezebel's a slut.
Direct quotes.
Yeah. So I probably didn't treat some of the girls who, you know, I started seeing girls and then was just like not interested and sort of would end up going off with other people. So probably I did, that's the one thing I do regret, is probably the way I treated certain people. You know, in terms of my university life, I had a fantastic 3 years. I was probably quite lucky. Quite a lot of the school friends actually ended up going to the same university as me. So James Howard was there, Alex Ross was there, Ian Farron was there. So I had all those guys, and I didn't see them that often, but it was nice to always have that fallback. We also, quite a few girls were there, so Jenny Wilson, Becky Milcham were all there as well. You know, but as I say, I made some absolutely fantastic friends, and they're still friends today. And in fact, last night I was out with two of the guys from university last night. So.
Do you think in any way the fact that you know, you went to university with some of those guys who you went to school and college with, that perhaps if you didn't, then the ties wouldn't have been as strong? I know you said you didn't see them all that often.
I think the guys that I kept, you know, it's quite incredible actually, the amount of guys that I still see. You know, I mean, I still have regular contact with Ian and with James and with Hayne as well. He lives in Australia now, but also with Mike Ott, Paul Lawrence, actually just loads of people still keep in contact and still see each other. I think a lot of it is that when I moved back from university, and every time I came back from university I would always see the guys and we'd always go out and we'd always have a fun time. And then when I moved back, I lived in Southampton for a couple of years, so still saw them there, played football with each other. And I think football is a big draw actually. It keeps a lot of people together, and it's where you see a lot of people, and then when you would go out and have drinks together as well. So it's interesting to me, being away out of the country for 4 years, how relationships change. But I think probably for the rest of our lives we'll be close. Now there's some people I'm closer with now than I was, you know, that I've stayed much closer with than some of the others who sort of maybe had their lives have changed, they've got children, and you know they're doing totally different things, so I don't see them as often. But you know, as I said to you earlier, I mean, we're going to the stag do tonight, and we're going to see probably about 7 or 8 people from school anyway tonight. So
yeah. How much regret is there over any lost friendships? For me, there's a lot.
I suppose I've been quite lucky. There's not too many people I would have said that I've lost friendships with that I regret that's happened. I think yeah, so I think I've been quite lucky in that respect.
Is football one of those things then that ties you?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But I think also that the other thing is, with a lot of those guys, I knew them when we were 7, 8 years old, even younger than that. You know, so we had junior school, and actually this is an interesting point for me. I think is that for the guys that I met at junior school at Murden, I'm still friends with them. The guys that I met solely at Thornden, probably only Sam, Swifty and Ross are the only 3 that I probably keep in contact with regularly. People like Dan Conchi I see occasionally, but I don't really know Dan that well anymore. And you know, he went off to the States and did other things. But of that group of people, it's only those 3 that I keep in contact with. So everyone else from the tutor group, from you know, from school, Luke Poulter, Chris Saville, all those other people, and particularly people that live close to us, you know, in Kingsway, then you know, I don't tend to keep in contact with them.
Take us back to Kingsway. What are your memories?
I just remember we used to just cycle around each other's houses all the time. I remember going to Luke Poulter's house, and he had a very nice house. And I remember playing.
That's true.
Yeah, I remember playing a lot of Mega Drive, FIFA. I don't know what that would have been. FIFA 94 probably. FIFA 94. Yeah. Around at his house, just playing football down the rec. Yeah. Cycling around, going down to the green. Do you remember the green? Yeah. So yeah, I remember all those sorts of things. Sleepovers, spending time with people. You know, trying to think of new ways to have fun. And then, you know, you sort of, after about 14, ended up spending time going to the rec, drinking cider and all this sorts of things.
Yeah. Because maybe that was I don't know if that's a pivotal moment in our relationship in any way. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I was never one of those guys who'd go down on a Friday night to drink at the rec.
Yeah, I mean
I've drunk a lot since.
I guess that was 95, 96 when that was happening. But yeah, I'm not sure. You know, I think maybe that's a lot of peer pressure that you end up. You know, the cool kids end up going down to the park, and I wanted to fit in. So I think that's part of. You know what you end up doing things that you regret, and Aki's probably the other person that I don't keep in contact with, and
no.
And maybe the thing with do you keep in contact with Aki at all?
I kept in contact with him. Actually, I think our friendship kind of grew a bit, maybe late college or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I remember coming back from university, because I think I became friends with him largely through Joel.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back from uni up at Sheffield or Manchester or something like that, and even a year or two after Manchester, 2004 or so, something like that, we'd be going out, drinking down at the Rufus, and halfway, and I'd stay at his place or something like that, his parents' house, and I thought we had a good friendship, but unfortunately, it kind of, I eventually called a kind of end to it. Because, to be circumspect about it, because I didn't really like his approach to certain things.
Yeah.
Essentially, I felt as if he wasn't being very truthful with me.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the
end
of it.
And that's also the end why we don't keep in contact anymore. Is that I've always felt with him that.
You've gone very quiet all of a sudden.
No.
He
we were really, really close at school. He was probably my best friend for quite a long time.
Really.
But I just found that the stuff that he would come out with was just complete bullshit.
Yeah. It's a shame, because I felt as if we did have things in common. In many ways I was glad. I suppose I was, on a personal level, I probably thought, I wasn't that close with him at school, but he was like quite cool. And now he's getting on well with me. But then all that stuff, just couldn't believe him. So eventually that was the end of it, and haven't really seen him since, which was a great shame.
Yeah, I think that if you're talking about people that I sort of drifted away from, the one thing is I don't keep in contact with very few of the girls.
Right. Okay.
And I couldn't tell you with a lot of them what they do and where they go. I mean, I probably from about 2004-05, that was probably the last time I really kept. Josie's the only one, but that's because she's married to Sam.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, how's life since university? You spent a couple of years down in Southampton. This is
I did, yeah. I worked for a recruitment company, which I absolutely despised. It was the worst two years of my life in terms of just the work element of it. And then I joined Chorus, which was old British Steel, and then on a graduate scheme in 2005.
Yeah.
And then I've worked there for the last getting on to 10 years now. So.
What did you despise about the recruitment? Because I tried that once, and I just thought, I remember going. I just
hated the rejection. Yeah, I mean,
really.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that you have to constantly call, and you end up, people don't have any respect for you at all. Maybe if you're good at your job, maybe they do, but yeah. So I really didn't like that. But a lot of that job was because Sam worked there, and I ended up. Just needing a job, and just sort of was working part-time, and then started working full-time, and then worked there. Then they offered me a full position, so I took it up. But yeah, best decision I ever made. One of the best decisions I ever made was to leave that company. So.
How did it sit with you morally, that job?
It didn't bother me. I'm not one for morals when it comes to work, particularly. I mean, I've been selling steel for the last 10 years, and I've sold into oil and gas, and I'm not, I would consider myself quite environmentally pro-environment, but it doesn't necessarily bother me that I'm selling steel into oil rigs and things like that.
It's interesting because I think in some respects, I mean, after university, I spent a couple of years, this is 2003, 2005, trying to develop a film script, with spoof of Naked Gun, essentially, so chasing the dream. One day, mate, that might happen, but hopefully it will. And then, I had a rubbishy job for a couple of months, and W.H. Smith was signing on, collecting the dole, and I think I'd occasionally hear something about yourselves, I think, these guys are all on these kind of, decent jobs, graduate schemes, I'd be trying for them, not getting anywhere. And And then eventually it was, you know, my parents said, look, you know, it's about time you got a job.
Yeah,
you know, they pushed me to it. So I got a job for 2.5 years, working for a year. This is 2005 in NatWest, call centre in Southampton.
Oh, did you?
Morally didn't sit with me.
Yeah.
Transferred up to Manchester, so I thought I'll relive the old university days. So I didn't quite pan out. So I spent a 1.5 years up there. Ended up seeing the sort of first girlfriend, a Greek girl, and that was kind of a bit of a tempestuous relationship, highs and lows.
Which is Greek, I'm sure that's very not surprising.
But you know, in some respects, had some good times, went on some nice holidays and things like that, which was good. But you know, the actual job itself, even for a year of that time up in Manchester when I was opening these accounts for Polish migrant workers, it was more admin. I was just thinking, this isn't really for me, you know, this sales kind of world. And I think that's what's kind of held me back from getting more high-powered or better-paid jobs, perhaps, if they've got a sales kind of component to them. But so I eventually just ended up, you know, working in the admissions office at Winchester University, which kind of like morally up until recently, I suppose, kind of sits okay with me in the sense that I feel as if it's education, you know, and it's doing something good for society. But I mean, yourself, you're quite, in terms of your job, how happy are you with it?
I'm not that happy at all, to be honest. I think that that's one of the things I regret is something that I've gone down a path that probably I can't really return from. But
really?
Well, maybe I can,
Look
but
at me, mate.
Yeah.
Well, not as a model, but
yeah. No, what I mean is that, you know, yes, I get paid pretty well. I live in a foreign country, and it's been, you know, it's been a good life. But in that respect, but I'm not satisfied at all with the job that I do, and I'd love to do something totally different. I've always wanted to be in film. I think that's probably
film.
Yeah.
Well, suddenly it's clear why you're here today.
Maybe not on camera. Maybe not on camera.
You want to be in film, really?
Yeah.
Well, because I don't really remember what people's hopes and dreams were necessarily back then. Really, I suppose, other than, you know.
I just wanted to be a footballer, or you know. But films always interest me, and you know, I've always wanted, you know. And I see some people's jobs, and I'm so envious of what they do. You know, it doesn't have to be well paid. I realise that money is certainly not the be-all and end-all of life, and but you know, once you start getting more responsibility and things happen, and maybe it's harder to pull away from the career path you end up. That's ended up sort of it's more luck than by design. That's for certain.
Well, when you say responsibility, do you mean family and children?
Well, yeah, my wife's pregnant, and
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's good.
So my wife's pregnant, and I think you know we're moving back to the UK. We live in Singapore, and we're moving back, and we just got to provide for your family. So you know, it's scrapping, you know, ripping up the career and going to be a runner on a production set, probably for no pay for 6 months. It's not something that probably works.
I think it's such a harsh reality of life, isn't it? You know, I mean, I did try that for a little bit, you know, after university, worked on a few short films and things like that, but, you know, how can you afford it? You can't.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately you need to sort of get a job. I don't know how people get into these kind of positions, you know, just maybe, you know, family circumstance or something like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, obviously you're having a child soon, so you're going to be becoming a father. Do you know if it's a mother or a mother? Sorry,
a mother or daughter?
Quite impressive at that age. Do you know if it's a boy or a girl?
I don't know. My wife doesn't want to find out. I want to find out, but
really?
my wife doesn't.
You're itching to find out.
Yeah.
In terms of fatherhood, this is one of the reasons I did want to speak to you as well. Are you okay with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your father wasn't around.
Yeah.
How has that affected your life?
The thing is, it was such a long time ago. I mean, I was 6 when he died. I don't remember him. Do you know what I mean? I don't remember him, and but I suppose one of the things is I don't really talk about it with my mum either. Really, no, not really. We do occasionally. My wife brings it up more than I do, but when you don't have a father, I guess the thing is you're always looking for people to look up to. And I didn't even have a father figure in my life, really. So, but it's interesting, you know, for me, I would be really interested to know what my life would have been if he'd been around, and whether I would have been a totally different person to what I am now. But all I would say is that I think my mum did a great job with me, and if I could raise my children as half as well as she can, then she did with my sister and myself, then fantastic. You know, with my relationship with my sister is different. I mean, we don't really get on, but I love her daughter so much, and you know, maybe in time things will get closer. I don't know.
Is it okay to explore that anyway? is that something that harks back to your childhood?
Well, maybe. I mean, and maybe that's part of not having a father. I don't know. Yeah, we never really. I think we're just very, very different people. I'm an extroverted type of person. She's introverted. You know, we don't have anything in common in terms of the things that we like doing. But you know, at the end of the day, I love her. She's my sister.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem at all.
Mate, yeah. I don't know, quite emotional. To be honest, mate.
Hey, your life seems really interesting.
Oh, dear.
You've had some ups and downs, yeah.
Yeah.
You both your parents still alive?
Yeah, I was going to go there, but yeah, they're both still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew my dad was ill,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's kind of.
He's okay now, yeah.
No, he's
still
really, really ill.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, when was it? So he had the transplant in '99.
Yeah.
So he had the transplant. You can film this if you want. I don't mind, but yeah. So he had the transplant in '99. This was so they failed in, when was it, about '92 or something?
Yeah, I remember that he was ill. He was on dialysis for a long time, right?
It's fucking devastating. And then it got to.
But that's his life, right? I mean,
yeah.
So for the last 22 years?
Well, no, there was one. He did have a transplant in '99, which we probably may have heard about, and that lasted through to 2007.
And was he okay during that period? Or?
Yeah, I mean, he got a job. You know, back in production. He's all his work with manual labour. You know, so he got a job back in production work at a place called Ocular Sciences, which made contact lenses in Chelmsford. So whilst we were living down there, then my parents moved down to Dorset, and he was commuting back in. He did that for 3 or 4 years. Then eventually they blew him out because of various changes at the firm, even though he was doing a very good job. But you know, it's just really hard physical labour that he's doing. You know, after a kidney transplant, I remember him telling me a few years afterwards. He said he'd be picking up these massive kind of things, and just, you know, like the respect and adulation I have for him still is just like unbelievable. The fact that you basically, like you're talking about providing for your family and things like that. That almost seemed to me as if just like an exemplar, you know, a perfect example of the fact that basically you're almost kind of putting your health on the line to pick up the, you know, earn the bread. So anyway, 2007, so he was on dialysis about 92 to 99 after a failed transplant in about 93. So 99 to 2007, it's okay. As I mentioned, 2007, I'm back up in Manchester, get a call along the lines of, you know, it's not going, it's failing, because they have a finite, most of them have a finite amount of life, these transplants, in terms of kidneys. So yeah, it was, you know, then the kidney failed in 2008. I remember being back at my parents' place in Dorset, where his dad had said to my mum, "Oh, he's back on dialysis." So he's been back on that, and up until now, still is on it 3 times a week in Salisbury. So hard, and hard now. After the last 4 or 5 years, you know, you're an aging man. It's getting harder and harder. 2009, maybe something like that. He had because he had epilepsy when he was younger.
Right.
So he had a kind of epileptic fit as such. I believe watching the X Factor in a chair, fucked his hips up. So had 2 half hip replacements, but because the bone density is so poor as a result of the kidneys not functioning and the machine just performing a function, you know, that isn't as good as that. Had this. Thanks. Had 2 half hip replacements, which didn't really work. So subsequently, you know, he came out of hospital on crutches. You know, basically dumped on my mum's doorstep. You know, you deal with him now. That's kind of thing. And then since then, it's just been a sort of slow decline to in the last year or 2 after various other things. I've had a couple of stents and things like that. In the last year or 2, he's kind of basically been transferring from you know, the high chair, because the home's all kind of adapted, high chair into wheelchair using a slide board, and then at the moment in his bedroom, they're kind of like at the stage where they're kind of using a hoist. So yeah, it's not good, but you know, this was one of the reasons I kind of, it's selfish, I know, and I don't particularly feel that good about it, but in some respects this was almost like the conversation I probably wanted to have with you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, obviously you haven't had a father, and I look at myself and I think to myself, you know, his life's been very hard, my mum's life's been very hard, it still is. You know, it's obviously been hard for yourselves in a number of ways. Yeah.
Look, I mean, I think with not having a father, if you don't remember it, then you don't, you know, it's certainly much harder for my mother than it was for me, because at the end of the day, you know, she decided that she wouldn't have a boyfriend or another relationship because of the two of us. And so it's been much harder on her, but we haven't really talked about it very much, you know. So it's one of those subjects that we sort of gloss over, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that we do need to have that kind of conversation. But with the fact of not having a father, if you don't remember it, you don't know anything different. So you make the life that you know, life is no different because you don't know what you're missing. But certainly, you know, you look at other people and you look at their relationships with their parents and with their siblings, and you know, people who have fathers, and you do miss it. But like I say, you know, it was what, 1987 when he died, so you know, we're talking well over 25 years ago now. So yeah, difficult to say for certain how my life would be different if he'd been around. But certainly, you know, not having a father, you know, as I say, I don't know what that's like to have one. So I've got no frame of reference really.
No. That's cool. I really appreciate it, Jess.
Yeah, no problem, John. Yeah, it was good.
It's like therapy.
Yeah, it's like therapy.
Perfect.